Everybody, parents and others. This is Naomi Aldort here, author of Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves. And I'm interviewing today Carla Atherton, who interviewed me on Children's Health Summit. And I'm very excited because Carla has a book, finally. And I can't wait for all of you, every single family should buy this book. This is the revolution. Let me tell you a little bit about Carla. Carla is just amazing and has so much knowledge on health and healing and staying resilient with your health and your children's health. Carla Atherton is the director of Healthy Family Formula and the HFF Practitioner Training Academy, host and producer of Children's Health Summit. That's the one I was interviewed in twice. Author of Family Health Revolution. That's the new book. Family health consultant and coach and children's health advocate. Spurred on by the love for her 3 glorious children, Carla's mission is to support families to achieve their best health through information, guidance, and empowerment. So I can't be happier than to talk and do my first interview ever. I've been interviewed a lot, but I haven't interviewed others, and it couldn't be better than interviewing you, Carla. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's such an honor. I'm so excited, Naomi. I'm so excited we made this happen.
So here's my first question. So just generic, what has been your family's health revolution?
Well, okay, so just because probably not a lot of people that are in your community knows me yet, I think it's good for them to know where I'm coming from because it's really what spurred me on to write the book in the first place. So we're tickety-boo going along. I'm a young mom with 3 children at the time, but there was so many things along the way in my health journey that I discovered that what I was doing before wasn't really working for me. So, we used to be a very reactionary household, or, and this is sort of your forte, Naomi, with, family relationships and, reactivity and, just lots of mess going on there, but we're such a loving family, but we just were kind of just doing what we could do, just to get by. And I was very medicalized. So I'll be using that word probably a few times today. And throughout the book, I was very, reliant on the medical system. I thought that, if something hurt, you go to the doctor and they give you something to fix it. And so, but that started to not really be the case. And it wasn't actually adequate at some point. So, going through migraines in my, late teens and then figuring out, when I, drank coffee, I got migraines. And when I stopped, I didn't. And so, that was really a fact. And then when I had my babies, I was like, I don't really want to have drugs. I want to try this naturally because isn't that kind of how the idea? And I wanted to go through that cathartic experience of birthing a child. I didn't want to be numbed out of it and knocked out. And I'm not saying, that that's a judgment at all. It was just for me, that was what I wanted, was to be able to have that experience. And why do we think so negatively about this? And why do people circumcise? And why do they vaccinate? And why do we, give like Tylenol to our children? And all these things started to come up as a mother. And so when my middle child turned, I actually stopped eating gluten at one point in my life. I got twigged onto that because I gained like 35 pounds when I was 35 years old. And I've always been like, I'm not a big person, I know. And I was just like, I was building a house, super stressed. I was contracting and I was working 3/4 time at an academic position. And I was like burning out and I was getting fat. I'm going to use the word fat. Like I can say that about myself. I was not feeling good, but I was super active. And I was just like kind of ballooning and bloated and bad digestion and all that. And I discovered this thing called functional medicine. Wow, what's that? Like, what I'm eating, it's not just about calories in, calories out, but it was the actual food itself. So I'm creating inflammation because I'm gluten sensitive. Oh, okay. I'm creating joint pain. I was literally like creaking up the stairs. I went to Europe with a family member, my aunt, and it was fun, but I was hurting the whole time, and I should have been young and spry and jumping around, and my joints were super sore. Could you imagine where I'd be at now if I hadn't figured out that I need to stop eating gluten? Because gluten and dairy were like not my friends. So I started to heal, and I dropped the weight super fast. Like I did like cold adaptation, and I did, keto diet, like healthy keto, lots of veggies. And then I sort of laid off that a bit, but kept all the balance. So that's my journey. But for me to go into this journey with my children, so I was leading the way, right? So whatever I did, I said, hey guys, we're going to change some things that in our lives. So it wasn't just me and mom went on a diet or something like that. It was like the whole family was starting to shift, and it wasn't easy. I'm not going to say that it was easy, because I was learning all this and going, I don't know if that's going to work, or if that's right or true, or trying to sort through all the stuff on the web, that's like the Wild West out there. But my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And for me, she was 11 at the time, and that was 2012. And for me, it was hard, but I just dig in. Like I literally, like I dive in head first for most stuff that I do, not unthinking, right? I know how to swim, but I'm getting in the pool, right? Like I'm getting in the pool, and I'm getting in there. But I think that I didn't think too much about what the journey was going to be. And I think that's kind of good I didn't. Because, right? Like, don't think too much about it. You just kind of, get learning and doing stuff. So I didn't have a big, crash. I had other friends that actually, their children had similar diagnoses within the same year of my daughter's. And, they had nervous breakdowns, or they had a really hard time with this grieving process of what might not happen, or they're imminent, like they're always a chance of a child who has diabetes, type 1, that they could die, like one false move, especially if they're teenagers, they go get drunk one night, right? Like if they're teenagers that go do that and have this kind of like, because teenagers, some of them do. And, and that's it. Right? That could be it. So there was a lot of worry that kind of was added onto that regular motherhood plate. So that's where I kind of learned about, I did all my designations then. I started to become a health coach, writing about health.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Go ahead.
Carla.
Yeah.
I think I'm on in suspense. You left me in suspense. I want to know how your daughter with the type 1 diabetes. So what happened? How
okay,
is she?
So well, she's really good now. And the thing, okay, so my initial goal was to heal it, reverse it, because most people aren't even thinking of that. They're like type 1, you can't even touch that. It's like lots of other autoimmune conditions you can. Like there's reversal of Hashimoto's every day, MS even. All of them, except for nobody talks about type 1. So that became part of my mission. But the really hard thing though, Naomi, was that in the middle of it, we were a team. We were just like the dream team, she and I. But it was hard because we'd even go into the grocery store and she'd be in tears because there would really literally be nothing we could eat, because it was all bags, boxes, and cans. And then there would be like too much sugar in something. And I mean, yeah, you could eat some things, but it just was like, oh, an apple again? Oh, like we would have like avocados as a snack, and most kids are like, no. So we were really good for a long time, but those teen years hit. And that's what I want to help people. That's one thing that I help people through right now, is that how do you get to those teen years without splitting off, where the child feels like a specimen or they're doing something wrong, because it's very invasive. Type 1 in particular is a particularly invasive I guess, I don't know if we call it condition, because of all the poking with needles. Like even your space and your energy is always being violated. And people are always asking you, what's your sugar? What's your blood sugar at? What have you eaten? And so it's like so much scrutiny on those kids that it becomes like, or they hide. And so my daughter hid for years, and it was really hard. So we never did get to that point where we could really do true reversal. But right now things have changed so much that we're on the road again. So I know that you can reverse it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody read my book, you're going to go reverse this and that. It depends what your goals are and what your resources are and your skill level and what you know. But that is definitely not something that I don't consider anymore. I consider it all the time. I'm just not so focused on it anymore that I can't see anything else, because I have to see everything. I have to see those beautiful mornings. I have to see that, like, telling each other we love each other all the time, like seeing her as her beautiful, amazing self and not this sick kid, which I talk about in the book as well, that there's this dance between wanting the best for your children, but also seeing the best in them, right? So it's like, they're not broken. Yeah. Exactly. So our journey has been hard and beautiful, and it's not over. You know, she's 20 now, so we are at the best place we've ever been, and she's at the best health she's ever been at. And her, you know, blood sugars are awesome. Like, so we are just like, really, she's doing amazing. I'm so proud of her.
Good. So you started saying about what's in the book. So
yes.
Tell us more about what's in the book.
Okay, lots. Okay, so you know what I could do?
You're not going to read the whole book right now, but
yeah. Can I show your audience the table of contents, just like a really quick, for like 20 seconds? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll see if that, tell me if you can see it, Naomi. So it should pop up right away. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to share. So this is the table of contents, and this is the PDF version. So if anybody orders it, you get the PDF right away. And then if you ordered the paper copy, that will come in the mail. So, but everybody has the PDF. And so I have an introduction, obviously. But I do want to mention one thing about the beginning of the book, is that redefining health is a really important section to read, because you and I were talking about this before we started recording, but I can't talk about this enough. And I find that this is such a huge barrier to regaining health for many people, is the initial belief or disbelief in our own power to help ourselves, to heal ourselves, to be healthy, because we often are taught that we don't have any control over that. We're born with bad genes. You know, it's like, doesn't matter what we eat, really, as long as we have a pill that we can, you know, feel better. But what we know in functional medicine and lifestyle medicine and epigenetics, which I explain in the book, that is not the case. That's actually the opposite. That is so untrue, that anybody who says that should be, like, you know, sued for malpractice. Like, that's how untrue that is. So I go through all of that stuff, you know, empowerment stuff at the beginning. And then I talk about what is health naturally, you know, because we are born, we should, for the most part, or are born healthy. And it's our environment that can actually alter that state of health. And our inputs, you know, what we're exposed to, and the practices we keep. If we don't sleep, if we eat poorly, if we, you know, laze around on the couch, if we binge watch, you know, instead of engaging with our families, you know. Hey, I've watched a lot of Netflix too. But I mean, you know, but that's if my daughters and I get into something and we're like, I just want to, you know, we kind of enjoy that together, whatever, you know. So I'm not saying we don't enjoy things. We need balance, though, right? Between life and entertainment, between, you know, a few treats here and there, and a really steady diet that keeps us healthy most of the time. Okay, so I go through the nature of health, you know, everything that I've learned to date, actually. Well, not everything, but a lot. I mean, I touched the surface of all that stuff, and then I go through all the
I see that you touch on, if you scroll back a little bit, there is a section about becoming conscious parent.
Yes.
So you're connecting to my work.
Oh yeah.
So this is where, you know, it's not just technically the food, but the whole attitude, the whole being aware. And I wanted to throw in also that what you say really touches me, because I raised my 3 children in a process similar to yours.
Yeah.
But parents today are going to doctors for a sneeze and looking to stop every symptom, rather than dance in the rain, rather than see the benefit of the symptom, which is really the healing mechanism, rather than stopping it. And children, when you talk about the attitude, the knowing that the body can heal itself and can keep itself healthy. I
Mm-hmm.
love when you say that. And I love that it's in the book, because I'm really concerned about children growing today and what they see around them, even before COVID. I'm not talking about COVID, but they come to believe that things constantly go wrong, just like
Mm-hmm.
for some
Mm-hmm.
80 years old, that even they don't. And we really need, like, I grew up, I'm in my 70s, and even I already grew up where I never saw a doctor. We didn't have a family doctor.
Yeah.
That's not part of living. It wasn't about symptoms that have to be alleviated. If you had fever, you had fever. It came,
Yep.
it went.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had
Mm-hmm.
a cold, you had a cold, and we didn't have as many at that time because we weren't eating as junky. So it's really, I just really love that you have that becoming conscious parent, because if you don't become conscious also to the food we eat and to everything, which is why I want all of you to read Carla's book. And the more I look, I love that you give me the content here, the more, please send me the book.
Yes. Well, but yes, of course. I think you have the PDF, but you need that paper copy,
I
right?
have
Like
PDF, but I'd like to have the paper copy.
yes,
I don't like
for
reading
sure.
online.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. And you know, I think in conscious parent, but also a conscious person, teaching your children to be conscious, as well as because I think a lot of the symptom relief stuff. So first, we need to find root causes, which I talk about. So I talk about all these. So okay, before I move on here, this section I talk about natural immunity and cultivating immunity, and that twigged me to highlight that because you talked about fevers, and fevers are a natural process. So we're taught that it's bad. It's not. It's our body doing its job. We want actually fever. We just don't want it to get ahead of us. So, but we don't knock that out. We ride it out. And I love that dancing in the rain. I love that you said that. It's so beautiful. Certain phrases. I'm a writer. Like first and foremost, actually, I did my master's in English literature, and I am a writer. I love metaphor, and I just that one's just to me, just I want to it brings tears to my eyes. The
Well,
joy
I
in that
say
dancing in the rain.
yeah, you don't want to run away from the storm, but
Mm-mm.
dance with the rain. That's including dance with the virus, dance with the dirt,
Yep. Yep.
dance with the worms.
Yep.
It's like being
It's part
in
of us.
part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Part of
rather than
life.
being so sterile and running away with fear,
Yes.
to become strong.
Yes. I love that. I'm going to get back to what you're saying about root causes, though, because that's one of the it's a huge issue that I think that needs to be addressed over and over again. Because again, like symptom relief, like we want symptom relief. Yeah, we don't want to feel like garbage, but it's telling us something. So what are those root causes? What is it that's wrong? Or you know what? It's not even wrong. What's out of balance? That's creating the body to tell us, look here, hello, something's out of balance here. And then what you do, the new way, or not new, old, revisiting the old way of doing things is to, find out what it is and allow the body to do its job. And if we give the right inputs, right, and the right focus, have the right body awareness, an awareness of each other, even in relationship, we can allow that and like cultivate that health, mind, body, spirit. So in the book, I go through the foundations of health. So I go through nutrition and diet, exercise, movement, sleep and rest, all of these things, mental health, as taking care of mental health. I go through stress, the relaxation response, and the toxins in our environment, right? Or our energetic environment. All those things affect our state of health, but they affect them in I talk about epigenetics, right? So we are born, right? These people, we're all individuals, but our genes are not our destiny. What we do with these foundations, like if we eat junk, we're gonna turn on specific genes. If we eat healthy food, we're gonna turn on these other genes. And it's a difference between illness and health. And so every single decision we make will affect our health. It will turn genes on and off. If that might be a revolutionary for some people who've never heard that before. But that's how very vital and important and powerful these practices are. our lifestyle is, right? As well as our environmental inputs. So a toxin's going to trigger certain things in the body, and being able to not be, in a toxic environment will actually trigger other things like relaxation and rest and repair and joy, So, and then EMFs is something
It impacts behavior too.
totally.
Those of you, who are into my book and teaching,
Yes.
it all goes together. It all goes together.
Completely.
Behavior, sleep,
Oh,
learning
yeah.
abilities.
And we could get into that, but that'll take us forever. But just a quick comment. No, I love that you brought that up, because there's a bunch of reasons for that. It's either, is there a vagus nerve issue? Is there, are you in fight or flight, like stress? Your behavior is going to change with that. Or if you're reactive to a certain food, it'll change biochemistry. You need certain biochemistry to make, proper neurochemicals. Like all that stuff plays into not just physical health, but behavior, right? So we're working on a child's behavior, thinking they're bad or don't listen or don't, that they're damaged in some way, and they're not. They're actually responding in the only way they can, given what their bodies and minds and their soul and their little hearts are going through at the time. So your work, Naomi, is really, I just want to cry. I just think about all those kids. And you know what I actually do is I get pictures of all my clients. And then I encourage parents to look at a picture of their child, like every once in a while, just like, and then this washing over of love comes over them, because then they're less likely to say, oh, this kid's just like so much work and this and that, all this stuff. And they actually really see them for who they are and what they're experiencing. So anyway, that's an aside. I do talk about that kind of stuff in the book as well. And we're not going to get into EMFs, but that's another thing, like electromagnetic fields and stuff. So those are just examples of environmental things. I also have a little list that I've made, a PDF about changing the vibration in the home, right? So improving like positivity in the home. And there's a lot of things, like even from eliminating chemicals all the way to lighting candles and playing nice music and making supper together in the kitchen and, turning off electronics, things like that. So anyway, that's an aside. Do you have questions so far? I'm going to get into the last two parts.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Continue. Okay. I can't wait to get your book. I mean, this is, it's funny because I teach parenting, but because of teaching parenting, I teach a lot about health. Yes. And people say, well, why don't you write a book? I says, my hands are full. Uh-huh. But hey, Clara wrote the book.
I know, isn't that? I know. And that's part of my mission too, is that, and then connecting with you on this is that we can work together, right? Because if this book is here, and even for my own clients, I wrote it even for my children, right? Like even for only three people, because to say, we can't give one word answers to any of these. Even if someone said to you, my child is behaving this way, or if someone said to me, my child has acne even, there's so much to know about that we're just misinformed about, or that we're missing in our modern culture, that just like, here, look at this book, read the book. and then we will tweak all the details after that. So I'm so glad. I really hope it serves your community really well. Okay, yes, okay, so we're talking about this part of the book, what could go wrong. We're talking about stress, what stress means, how it affects the body, and then common modern chronic conditions. So all these things are stressors that cause the symptoms, and then we group symptoms and call it a disorder or diagnosis or condition, whatever, right? So, but I don't really see them that way. Like, I just think it's clustering, and it's it's a way to explain something, but it's not the end. It's not the root. It's not the cause. And you could have one environmental trigger. Let's say someone lives beside a farm that sprays every day, and two of the people get ill and nobody else is sick in the family. And of the two that are ill, one has cancer, the other has autoimmune disease, right? Totally different, but same cause. So that's why we always go way back to the root causes. And then we deal with the details of those diseases, diagnoses, disorders because there might be damage to specific areas of the body, or, you know, certain imbalances that we can, you know, address then. So it sounds really complicated. So parents are gonna be like, how am I gonna do this? But this is a primer. This is a primer. And it will give a lot of empowerment as to how to understand what's going on in your family's health. So I go through these, and if people don't have these conditions, that's all good. The book is still really useful for avoiding them, for understanding them in other people, in you know, like reinforcing the fact that the relaxation is, you know, response is really useful, and to reduce stress so that we have healthy futures.
Right.
But I'll tell you though, Naomi, I don't know anybody who's not touched by at least one of these things, you know, or doesn't know somebody who is. So yeah, but there's hope. Okay, so when things do go wrong, we go into like the how-to again. So it's like we're setting the stage for this state of mind of, you know, working with healthcare teams, or finding root causes. This is an important section here. And working with your kids, which is your forte, right? Like, how, you know, it's not against them. It's not cajoling. It's not convincing. It's not against their will. It's like, we're a team. You know, the family is a team, or can be if they haven't been before. So you taught me so much about that. I love your book. Is a classic. That's your thing. That's your, like, where someone says, how do I do this? You go, okay, read my book. And then we'll talk. Read the book, and then we'll talk. Because it's so, I just think everything in it is just so brilliant. And I think that's the only way it's worked. I mean, for me, if I think about how, and all this whole section where I talk about all of this, parents' feelings when their kids are diagnosed, you know, when you and your child collide, all that stuff really comes back to self-reflection as the parent and the caregiver. It really does. As hard as it might be, where you're like, I just wish they'd do what I want them to do. And it's not going to work unless you see them and you see your own stuff. So there's a bit of a journey here in this book too, that I encourage people to embark upon. And then reclaiming your family's health. So I do the toolkit, right? So we've got a natural medicine toolkit. I'll show you here. You know, where I talk about botanical supplements and compounds there. And then there's a part 2 where I talk about therapies and support professionals. Part 3 where I talk about therapeutic heavy hitters. So some of these are like, I call them heavy hitters because they cover all of the stuff that's like the basis of life. You know, so if we need to detox, that's like always. Everybody needs to do that on a daily basis. We need to create new stem cells. Right? Everybody needs to do that. We need to, you know, there's, you know, nurture and encourage growth and I guess the health of our mitochondria. So those things, I go through some of those. I got my favorites, and I go into some deep healing stuff too, where people go, okay, fine. I've done I'm starting to heal under that. I ripped the Band-Aid off. I'm starting to heal under that Band-Aid. No more festering wound. It's starting to see the light, get the air, you know, all that stuff. And now I want to, you know, either, I don't know, celebrate the scar, or, you know, or heal the scar, you know, or get under, you know, so there's a deeper healing that can happen for families as well. And that people, I think, naturally get to that point. And so ensuring success, a few things that I talk about at the very end. And then I have some resources and appendices, and people can read a little bit more about me. And I have a really heartfelt acknowledgements page that I would love for people to read, not just because you know, just to read it, to finish the book, but because I want to thank people that have helped me on my journey, that even when they didn't realize that they were helping me. And so I'm going to stop my share so I can see you again. And yeah, so do you have any questions for me about that, Naomi? We could go into a couple things, or we could just...
Yeah. Well, you kind of answered my next question. I was thinking, you know, why did you write the book? But you kind of already told us. If you have anything else to say about that, that'd be nice. But I think we're clear. Yeah. Maybe talk a little bit about what you think people will get out of it, like what purpose it serves for others to read it, and maybe you know, parents, you know.
For sure. I think that it's what I did, it just became this, what I wanted to do with it. So it was support first, right? Because I think going through what I've gone through, and that's only a tiny part, like that one daughter, that's not all, there's so much more. And I go through a lot of that in the book. For one thing, I put part of my story in there, sort of thread it through, because then it sort of anchors you in what my mission is, and it shows you really people that they're not alone, and there's a lot of healing that can be had through the hardest of situations. But not only that, there's a lot of people are going to want to read it for the information as well. So not just the support and the, maybe some solutions as far as how to get more supports, the proper supports for yourself, but also the information is supported in and of itself as well, because learning all this stuff that maybe we haven't been taught, or partially, or need to be reinforced, about things like epigenetics and lifestyle factors and the chronic illnesses, all that. So all that information is there in one place as well, and then using that information to be able to improve your own family's health. So how do I do this? The how-to as well is really what I made sure that I included in the book, and the companion guide as well.
So I have some specific questions. So first of all, I'm really impressed going through your whole, the content. It's like, this is an encyclopedia, and it really, my dream come true, because I don't have time to also do the health part, and you have a lot more knowledge. You did your homework. And I just want every family to get this book and to revolutionize, like you said, Carla, to have a revolution in how we see health, in how we raise children, not as specimen for sickness and medical intervention. So I'm really, really excited about that. I wonder if you cover, or if it implies anything about the germ theory, which is part of the running away from the storm instead of dancing in the rain. Is that in the book?
Totally. Yeah, it's a huge, yeah. It's part of that,
because the whole
it's the natural health, like the nature of health. So you'll find that peppered throughout, but I do address that in the natural human life cycle and all those things. I address it when I talk about the virome, the microbiome, and the mycobiome, which is the funguses that live in and among us. And I talk about how important it is for balance, and how they're not bad, they're just there, and they make up huge part of their way. We contain more of those cells and that DNA of microbes than our own cells. Okay, so that,
and even viruses do us a favor.
Yeah, and there's a virome that actually needs to be in balance. It's not about eradication, because if we didn't have viruses, retroviruses, mycobiome, we'd be dead. If we were sterile, we would die. There is no life without those other microbes. They digest our food, they create our vitamins, and for instance, B vitamins, which are imperative for mental health, right? So you're not gonna have good mental health if you're killing off everything else like a war. And I talk about this whole concept of health as not being a war. It's about balance, and it's about co-creating and coexisting, and just making sure there's balance. We don't want all these guys like too much where it's overwhelming for our system, but they actually keep each other in check as well. So if we carpet bomb, we are not going to, we're sterile, and we don't live. Like we don't even digest our own food. It's the critters that do it, so yes, I totally do address all that, Naomi, so people can read all about that in the book too.
Great, Carla. I got worried now that I said what I said. I don't want anybody to think that we're undermining that sometimes a virus can kill.
Not at all.
We have to be careful. And we're not saying that. We're saying that we want to raise families who can handle and can benefit from the world and its viruses and pathogens, and be, like, eat dirt.
Two things I want to tell. Eat dirt. And two things I want to say about that. So what the book does is teach people about how the terrain is what we want to work on. We want to have nice soil, right? We want to cultivate that family tree to grow. That's why I have the tree as that symbol in my infographic. I think did I show you that? I did. I showed you the infographic. I don't know if I did. I could show it to you. Okay, so that's the reason why I teach the way I do, because we want to work on the soil. Also, there's another one, the soil, right? The soil terrain theory. You have a healthy terrain, you have a healthy body. But then, or you don't get, sick, you have balance, right? You do get sick, but I'm saying you are able to retain balance or return to balance. But then there's also the fishbowl, right? So what do you do? Like if you have a fishbowl and you've got dirty water, like, that fish is not going to be okay. It's going to need to get out, or you've got to change the water, right? So there's a couple ways you can look at it. And I won't share my screen. You can people can look at the infographics from the book, because it probably just takes too long. And we don't want anybody, going, I gotta go, because everybody's got kids. Pardon?
I just wanted to be careful because of COVID going around, and people immediately would say, oh, she says that you should just, no, we didn't say anything like that. Neither Carla nor I. Protect yourself if you are vulnerable or old, take care of things, hygiene and everything. And we're talking about.
Naomi, what I say is that the purpose is to become empowered, so that those things that we encounter, we can handle. And it's like my yoga teacher told me when I was doing my yoga teacher training. She said, why do we do all this? Like, why are we turn ourselves into pretzels and doing handstands and getting all strong in the body? And you feel better every day. You feel better. Like everything you do feels good. And you're like, wow, I'm just running up the stairs and I don't have to crick and creak. But it's not just that. It's you're in training. You're ready for when life throws you a curveball. And it's life or it's health, whatever it is. And so I want people to be empowered.
Do you include cold therapy in the book?
I don't even know if I talked about that, but that was something I've done. I don't think I didn't explore it too much, but I've
mentioned it before. It's just that so many parents always tell me, what do I do? My child doesn't want to wear their coat. And I tell them, don't have them wear their coat. They still have a body that can produce heat, which is the same mechanism of the immune system. Why train them to be like the rest of us who can't handle anything? Only we can handle between 70 and 73, right?
Yeah. And as long as their fingers are freezing and they don't have, frostbite. I mean, and one thing, I'm so glad you said that, because I had a friend, I won't say her name, but it's an endearing story. And she taught me so much about natural consequences. And I don't mean consequences as in bad, I mean outcomes, right? So if you didn't wear your coat and you're cold, well, that's a natural outcome from you not wearing your coat. So the child learns to just wear the coat next time, instead of mom said, and I'm going to lock horns with mom. It's just more like, I decided. So this is another thing too, is that our kids need to have.
That's another aspect, yes.
Totally.
But most of the time they will actually not be cold.
Right, that too. Right?
By putting the coat on them, we're actually making their body weaker, less able to produce heat, which is the same mechanism as the immune system. So I tell them, let them, like Weston Price. In the book, there is a picture when he was in Switzerland, and he shows this group of girls, barefoot, short sleeves, and they're not like this. They're just standing there, and he takes a picture. That's their normal life. We have become so spoiled and so cover up. And I say, let the children run barefoot. My children used to go out in the snow with underwear and take turns laying on the snow, and the other two boys count how long they can stay on the snow, like the count in box. And then they would come in the house when they're too cold, of course, and stand by the fire. They had a great experience. And my oldest son could walk on snow all the way. He still can. I mean, he's a grown-up in his 30s now, but these kids have more ability to be in the cold. And I learned from that, and I swim in the ocean in the winter. And
Mm-hmm.
the ocean here is terrifically cold. And sometimes,
Wow.
yesterday I did the lake. The lake is almost freezing temperature. So it's just so good for you. People are so afraid they'll get wet, it'll be cold. So that's why I'm asking about that, because it's just such a, but anyway,
It's
the book is covering
invigorating.
plenty.
It's
Invigorating.
invigorating. And yeah, and for the immune system, it's just phenomenal. Okay, but we'll move on. Okay, so you got another question.
Yeah, let's move on. What does a family health revolution look like? What are the steps? Give us a little.
I'm going to keep it so short and sweet. I think a family health revolution is a return to our natural state of health. And it's a reclaiming of our health, of autonomy, of agency and empowerment. That's what that looks like. And our confidence in our ability to make the right decisions and find the information that we need. So it's really, it's empowerment is what it is. Yeah.
And the confidence in the body.
Yes. Oh, yes.
My
yes.
body.
Yeah. And then of course, the subsequent, reversal of this trend to go down the road of chronic illness and become lobsters in a pot, right? Because the more numbers of autism, let's say we see, or ADHD or asthma, we just sort of go, oh, that's the way it is. Oh, that's the way it is. Even though it's getting worse and worse and worse every year. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see that reverse and people to say, hey, that's not okay. Well, that's just because there's 10 other kids in the same community that has the same condition doesn't mean that it's healthy. It means it's
not natural.
No, I mean, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like that. Yeah. So I see, an empowerment and then a reversal of these trends. That's what a family health revolution looks to me. And that's a big picture. And smaller, I see happy families. I see more joy. I see, in the small communities and in the nuclear family becoming more like just healthier and repaired, actually, and where they look at each other.
But I'm going to try to get out of you a little more hands-on. So
okay, yeah.
Give us, how do families get started reclaiming their family health?
Okay, well, honestly, I know, of course, I'm going to say this, but read my book. It gets you oriented in all of it, and you might have to read it a few times, and then use it as a reference book after that. And like I said, I'm amending it all the time. So once you're part of my community, so if you order the book, I actually have a members page. So it's a VIP page. It's like a little hub, and so it's sort of like a website, I guess. So you can log in, and I have all kinds of resources in there. So there's lots of practical hands-on things to do, and you really first start with the things you can change, and one step at a time. So you can easily change diet. You don't have to go super drastic. You just stop eating the bags, boxes, and cans, and you start getting fresh food. You stop eating, conventional like sprayed food, and you start eating organic as much as you can. And a lot of the organics aren't as expensive as they used to be. They're becoming on par. If you're looking at a difference of 10 cents a pound difference, do not cheap out on that. Like, it's not worth the 10 cents. Like, it's not. And so I have people I've seen people put back organic bananas and pick up the bananas that aren't. So like, oh, oops, I didn't mean to buy to pick that up because it's organic. And it was like a hair more expensive. So we got to get out of that thinking. It's not weird. It's actually just like food that's not sprayed, right? So things like that, there's so many little tips throughout the book about, making these changes bit by bit. And I also, like in my community, I'll be starting to do some more group coaching and like troubleshooting, just to do like the little minutia, right? Like the details and how.
I wanted to ask you, private coaching, group coaching, because I know I offer that online.
Yes.
So will you be offering, like, can somebody who has questions and special situation book time with you one-on-one or join a class?
Always one-on-one. So that's always available. But I'm trying to get, like, I can't do tons and tons of one-on-one because it's like very time consuming and it's very exhausting but it's wonderful. It's just can't do it 7 days a week. So I am actually doing, and I think the group setting is really nice for certain things. If we're talking about stuff like that, like diet, or how do I change exercise? How do I get Johnny to get out of the house more? How do we reduce screen time? All those things. I'm going to be starting to do some more group coaching for that starting in February. So if people are watching this after February, just check. If you get the book, you're in the VIP page, you'll be part of my client list and you'll get all those notifications. So if you're cool with that and getting an email I'm kind of sporadic, every week, maybe 2 weeks, you know, with like a little, here's what's going on, then you'll know all about that, all my offerings through that.
Great. Anything else you want to say? I think we covered.
I think we covered a lot, and I think that we should let people go. Although, you know, it's so fun.
It is fun being with you, and I can't stress again and again. I'm so excited about this book. It feels to me like Carla wrote the book that I don't need to write anymore, and she did more of the study, and she really has the details. And we really need to revolutionize this attitude about health of families and go back to nature, back to health, while living modern life,
Yes.
but more outdoors and real food, etc. So thank you so much, Carla. I'm really, really excited, and I really hope this book sells like mad, because we need it so badly.
Thank
So
you
very
so
badly.
much for having me, Naomi. That was great fun.
Yes.